dance for joy or lust or anger, and every time you haven't got it right, you're one of
Welcome to Sensible Secondhand Reviews, the series where we look at practical and sensible cars that you can buy between a budget of £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 2014 Peugeot 208 1.2 PureTech Allure. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? We're actually no stranger to the Peugeot 208 on Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Back in 2020, I drove one of these that had ridiculously low mileage and the absolutely dreadful automatic gearbox. That was a 3-door model. I think it was an Allure trim like this one, also with the 1.2 PureTech 3-cylinder engine with 82 horsepower. One of the reasons why I wanted to try this one, which is currently being supplied by Simon at Langley Prestige in Chelmsford, is because this 5-speed manual, it's just an awful lot better. The robotised manual or automatic gearbox that I tried last time was terrible. It was absolutely and utterly terrible. I don't recommend you go for that gearbox really at all. There is another automatic available actually, and it's principally found on the 110 turbocharged version of this engine, which also has 3 cylinders. Now, there were some engines that we can't talk about when the car was launched in 2012, which are the Prince engines. We don't discuss those on this channel because their reliability is just atrocious, and I cannot recommend any car with a Prince engine. So we won't discuss those. We also won't discuss the heavy oil versions of this car because we don't talk about diesels on this channel. What we can talk about is the 1-litre engine that was brand new in 2012 at the start of the range, which had 67 horsepower. Now that engine was dropped and later replaced with a 1.2 with 68 horsepower. It wasn't actually at the time of the 2015 facelift, it was a bit after that for some bizarre reason, but anyway. The most popular engine that you will find in these cars is this one though. It's a 1.2 with 82 horsepower. Above that, as I said, you get a turbocharged version of this engine with 110 horsepower with a 6-speed manual, or the conventional, I think it's a 6-speed auto. That's a very nice gearbox actually. I've driven that in a DS3 and it was pretty good. Now above that there are some 1.6 engines which are related to the Prince engine. They're known as the THP engine normally. I think they are more reliable than the Prince engine, so we'll give them a pass. The first one, when the car was launched, generated 155 horsepower. I think that was actually then later changed about the time of the facelift for one developing 163 horsepower. At the top of the range though, there were the crazy GTI engines, one developing about 197 horsepower, and then one, appropriately enough, 208 horsepower. I see what we did there. It's weird to think that this car is based on the same platform as the old Peugeot 207, which is probably one of the worst cars I've ever driven on the channel. I drove one back in 2019 and it was terrible. Had the Prince engine we can't talk about. That was one of the reasons why I don't like the Prince engine very much. But this, with the 1.2 PureTech engine, It's a much better car, just in every way. The styling is a lot better as well. This Allure model with the bits of chrome trim and the alloy wheels does look very good. The basic active ones, they miss out on a lot of features. I think some of the early actives didn't even have air conditioning, so when you're looking at 208s, I would definitely go for sort of mid-spec one like this Allure or above. Boot on this is similar in size to a Ford Fiesta. It's about 285 litres, I believe. Got the little things from the dealership in the boot. Let's see if we get a spare wheel, which we do. And that actually looks like a full-size one as well, which is amazing. Look at that, jack and tools and everything's in there. This car, by the way, has done less than 35,000 miles, so it's in really, really nice condition. One thing I would say is the rear window's not the biggest one I've ever seen. It's quite big for a car like this, but I would still prefer the optional parking sensors, which this car doesn't have. If we look in the back, you can see we've got windy windows in here. Do they wind all the way down, I wonder? I suppose that's reasonable, isn't it? Very, very heavily tinted glass for some reason. Look at that. So if I just step in here, actually that's not too bad. That's pretty good. I've got to hump this rear head restraint or headrest up behind me because it's digging into my back, but that's okay actually. Headroom is really good. I'm actually quite surprised considering this car looks like it's got quite a sloping roofline. Has so much headroom. There's lots of cars in this class, I don't know, like a Mark 7 Fiesta or something like that, where the rear space is not as good as this at all. And we've even got little door bins there. I think in some of the upper trims you'd get an armrest or a cubby there, but we've got two cup holders. No central armrest for the passengers there. But yeah, I'm quite impressed. You don't get a courtesy light, but that's really par for the course. Get some enormous big sort of coat hooks as well. You actually get two in this car, and adjustable height seat belts, which is brilliant. Right, let's get in the front, shall we? Okay. Just feels an awfully better made car than the 207. Don't get me wrong, it's not exactly the last one in luxury or anything like that. We've still got hard touch door tops and things like that in here, but we do have some nice soft touch materials here and here. You know, that's sort of hard, isn't it? That's weird. So it's soft there and hard there. Some of you will wonder what on earth I'm talking about and why I'm at all bothered about it. You think, well, it's completely irrelevant. There's no reason to sort of get so concerned about it, but it just adds to the feel of just of overall kind of quality to the car if you've got some soft touch materials. Down here we've got some blanking plates, but also we can see we've got tyre pressure monitoring on this car, which is good. And there's the traction control button. That I think is to do with the alarm, that one with the chap kind of near the key. Dimmable instruments, and then automatic wipers, come on autofocus. Automatic lights. We've got the stereo buttons on here, and that's for making calls with a Bluetooth system. USB port down there that I'm using to charge my Wi-Fi. And thank goodness we've actually got physical buttons for the heating and ventilation system, which the next generation of the PSA infotainment system didn't necessarily have. This one is the pre-facelift system, and it's fine. Sat-nav was quite a rare option though, from what I understand. Also, typical PSA of the time, they didn't move the fuse box for right-hand drive, so there's no point in me trying to get my secret mission documents in there because they won't fit. We can try the door bin though. The door bin's pretty big. That's not a problem there, is it? Not a problem at all. So 5-speed gearboxes. It's a shame that the 6-speed gearboxes only really started with the 110 horsepower version of this engine. You couldn't get it on the lower power models, but never mind. Nice conventional handbrake and a conventional key, which we will put in now and have a look at this infotainment system. Right, it's just loading up here. My gosh, it's taking a long time. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, there we go, right. Might have to turn that down. There we go. So there's not really an awful lot kind of in here. We've got a speed limiter, which I've turned off. And menu, we've got radio, media, settings, internet. Obviously there's no sat nav in here. So most of the stuff you're going to be looking at is sort of like radio, media. And you can change the source. We've actually got an SRC button. USB, Bluetooth, aux, are not plugged in. Aux port is just below the USB port there, and there's a 12-volt socket just there. You can see as well, amazingly, this car's got dual zone climate control. And yeah, there's the fan speed, direction of the air, individual temperature for driver and passenger, and then there it's nice and simple. There's hazard switch. Back to the menu. We'll skip on the sort of setting, we'll go to driving. Speed settings are things like the speed limiter. We don't have cruise control on this car, which is a bit misleading actually, but I have turned that off. Vehicle settings, what kind of stuff can we do? Automatic rear wiper when it's actually reverse, guide me home lighting, welcome lighting, LED daytime running lamps, excellent. Mood lighting, that sounds interesting. Ooh. It's daylight, so we can't actually do that, but never mind. Driving assistant, what does that do? Oh, not an awful lot. Just automatic rear wiper. Oh well. So that's not that exciting, really, is it? You don't really need this touchscreen to do stuff like that, do you? Particularly, it would be fine with a monochrome display, and in fact, the base model and the active, that's all you got anyway. Let's have a look at this system here. You can look at SRC sort of there. See if we actually get different things on the menu here. I'm not entirely sure that we can. Economy mode active, that's probably for the displays and things that just turned off. I think we have to sort of stop pressing that, which means we're going to have to start the car, aren't we? We can do this with one hand. There we go. Speed limiter pause, I don't want that because it's annoying. Right, radio off please, thank you very much. Let's see if we can actually get anything else sort of up. Do we have to press these buttons here? Maintenance, that's the display, front of, I know the door's open. Does that get rid of it? No, that goes on there. Does this actually do anything if I... No, it just sort of scrolls over here. That's not very good, is it? Let's turn that off. And then you just heard the bong for the ignition key there, viewers. Right, let's leave this small steering wheel behind and take a look under the bonnet, shall we? There we are, viewers, a very familiar power unit to those of you who've been watching Sensible Secondhand Reviews for some time. The 1.2 PureTech engine with 82 horsepower. Just 3 cylinders. You can see the core packs or whatever they are at the top of there. And it looks kind of lost in this engine bay, to be honest. Obviously you could get a 1.6 engine we can't talk about, and a 1.4 we can't talk about, and some ones that have heavy oil we can't talk about. But yes, the 1.6 THP, I think it was, would fit in here nicely too. One thing you must not ignore on this PureTech engine, whether it's the 68, 82 or the 110, is the cam belt interval. I would say probably change the cam belt before it's specified, because it's a wet timing belt on these engines, which means it's actually internal to the engine. There's no cam belt cover or anything on here, so absolutely make sure that you don't skip that. You don't skip the oil changes on this car, keep to the scheduled maintenance, because if that cam belt lets go or starts to integrate, then you've got a lot of problems. Other than that, they're much better engines than the Prince engine, an awful lot better. That's why we don't talk about those ones. Right, let's stop waffling and go for another drive, shall we? Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. To drive this car it's nice and comfortable. The instrument layout's very strange, and this car is infamous for it. You actually look over the top of the steering wheel to see the instruments. Now I've got the steering wheel set at the maximum height it will go, and the seat at as far low down as it will actually go, and I can see perfectly well. That's actually going to be fine. Now you need to obviously test that if you are someone who might not get on with this before you buy one of these. But actually, this has been carried over to lots of Peugeot models, and it seems to have worked quite well. I thought before I drove one of these in 2020 that I would absolutely hate it, but it's all right. It's not something that is my first choice, but it's absolutely fine. The ride and handling of the car is also, it's absolutely fine. I don't notice any kind of sort of terrible jolts when I'm going over a typical British B road like this one in Essex. The car seems to hold on all right. Electric power steering set up in this, I believe, like everything else. It's not the most dynamic car that I've ever driven. I mean, a Mark 7 Fiesta, and I've driven, you know, a few of those, is better to drive, and possibly also a Mazda 2. I would say those are the sort of class leaders, really. But it's perfectly fine. This engine is a lot better in this than it was in the C4 Cactus that I drove last year. It's fine in that, but with a car that's a little bit lighter, it just makes a little bit more sense. Steering is precise enough. Weighting isn't too bad. Gearbox, the throw's a bit longer than I would want in a car like this, but it's fine, you know, and that just sort of sums up the car in many ways. It's not a car, I don't think, for someone who's a really demanding driver, unless you're going for the sort of higher power versions, but for everyone else, it will be absolutely fine if you just don't ask too much of it, which is Sensible Secondhand Reviews, to be honest, is all about anyway. Let's now look at some Peugeot 208 Mark 1 trim levels. There are absolutely loads of them. There are almost as many as the 205, which I think for the UK market alone had more trim levels than any other car I've ever tested on the channel. But back to the 208. The Access AC, the Access Plus, the Active, the Allure, the Allure Premium, the Allure Prestige, the Black Edition, the Design Lime, the Design Menthol. The Lime and Menthol were, I think, styling packs you could get on other trim levels as well. The GTI, there's also a GTI by Peugeot Sport Engineering, which is the 208 brake horsepower model. The Feline, the GT line, the Ice Velvet, the Intuitive, the Roland Garros, the Signature, the Style, the Tech Edition, the XS Lime, the XS White, and the XY. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, the car was built in quite a few different countries. It's built in 2 different factories in France. Moulas, which is Peugeot's traditional home in Alsace, and then Poissy, which used to be the old Simca factory. Also in Brazil, Malaysia, Slovakia, and Iran. So viewers, should you consider a Mark 1 Peugeot 208 as an everyday car for your budget of between £1,000 and £5,000, well, as long as you keep on top of the maintenance of your PureTech engine, then it should be okay. I've not heard any sort of horror stories with this like I have with the old 207. And once you get used to this driving position, which some of you might really like actually, you have a nice practical everyday car. There's not really too many drawbacks. I like the fact we've got a full-size spare wheel in this car, for example. But anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Thank you once again to Simon at Langley Prestige for letting me have a go in this car today. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and leave a comment below. And we shall see you again soon for more reasonably priced motoring.